Movie begins with a devastating event. The Clark Comet strikes Earth, destroying more than 75% of the planet. 5 years later, Earth still hasn't recovered. Massive debris continues to orbit the planet, occasionally crashing back down. Radiation has burned entire regions, and violent electromagnetic storms sweep across the surface, destroying everything in their path. Because of this, the remaining survivors are forced to live underground. One of those survivor groups is the Giddy family, hiding in a massive bunker deep beneath Greenland. Along with other survivors, they try to rebuild what's left of humanity. But this new world is chaotic, dangerous, and unpredictable. After 5 long years, people have somehow adapted. John Giddy now works as an engineer and explorer, sent outside the bunker on risky missions. During one expedition, he discovers a newly formed fissure with lava flowing through it. Moving toward the coastline, he finds abandoned lifeboats and the wreckage of a destroyed cruise ship. Everything is empty. John boards the ship, searching for anything useful. Suddenly, the base warns him that a radioactive storm is forming nearby. At first, it seems distant, but John begins coughing heavily and removes his mask. Inside the ship, he finds something unexpected, a single preserved flower hidden inside a book. Then the warning comes again. The storm is already there. John runs. The storm chases him as he sprints back to the bunker, demanding they open the door. The team opens it briefly, but can't keep it open. The radiation could flood inside. John tells them to close it. At the very last second, he dives through the closing door, barely escaping death. Inside the bunker, John's wife Allison has become one of the leaders. During a critical meeting, Adam explains that supplies are running dangerously low. He suggests they might attempt outdoor farming next year, but Dr. Amina shuts that idea down. She explains that the bunker is no longer sustainable. Canada and the United States are gone. Iceland has disappeared entirely. Allison mentions hearing that Western Europe might be safer, with fewer storms, but radiation is still present, and even small exposure is deadly long-term. When asked about the massive crater in Europe, Dr. Amina explains that the main fragment of the comet landed there, forming a huge crater surrounded by mountains. These natural barriers block radioactive winds, making it the most promising place for new life. However, the general points out the harsh truth. It's far from Greenland, and reports suggest violent conflicts are already happening there. Later, John meets with a psychiatrist who asks how he's coping with this new world. John admits he's learned to live with it. The doctor urges him to stay emotionally open with Allison. Suddenly, the bunker begins to shake. Panic spreads, but the tremor stops. The general reassures everyone that the bunker survived the comet's impact. It can survive an earthquake too. Then Allison brings up a distress signal they received. Adam refuses to take in more people. The bunker is already full, but Allison refuses to abandon them. She demands the decision be put to a vote. The vote passes. Against the odds, the bunker agrees to help. The general announces that a rescue team will be sent the next day. Allison and John's son, Nathan, attend school inside the bunker. He has developed a deep fascination with the stars. One day, the teacher explains that a fragment of the Samra comet is still trapped within Earth's gravitational pull, forming a glowing ring around the planet. Meanwhile, John is working on repairing the bunker's water plumbing system alongside a friend. After hours of effort, they finally manage to fix it. Clean water starts flowing again, and for a brief moment, it feels like a small victory. Everyone is relieved. Later, Allison arrives at the community hall with Nathan and finds John there. John quietly hands her the preserved flower he discovered inside the abandoned ship. Allison is worried. She knows his exploration missions expose him to radiation, but despite her fear, she recognizes his sacrifice and thanks him for what he does. They then talk to Nathan. Allison mentions that he was seen outside earlier. John immediately scolds him, reminding him how dangerous it is out there. When Nathan asks if he can go outside again someday, John gets irritated. Allison gently jokes that Nathan is becoming just like his father, always wanting to step outside, even when it's unsafe, trying to enjoy a rare, peaceful moment. They spend a little time dancing together. That night, Nathan returns to his room and gazes at the stars. He has punched tiny holes into his bedsheet, creating constellations that glow softly in the dim light. The next morning, a rescue team is deployed. Leaders and military personnel supervise as the team ventures out to respond to a distress signal. The mission is successful. Survivors are rescued, and the team begins heading back toward the bunker. Back inside, John reports to work and notices one of his friends looking deeply worried. As they talk, John spots a crack forming in the bunker wall, a fissure slowly spreading. Suddenly, the rescue team requests permission to move toward a second location, where more people are reportedly trapped. Adam refuses, saying they can't afford to take in anyone else. Allison wants to discuss it further, but before anything can be decided, the connection with the rescue team is lost. Without warning, the bunker begins begins to shake violently. Lights go out. Walls start cracking. Panic spreads as people grab onto each other, trying to stay upright while parts of the structure begin to collapse around them. When the shaking finally stops, John manages to get back on his feet with the help of his friend. His first instinct is to find Allison. He rushes to her side and supports her. Thankfully, she's unharmed. Next, they race to find Nathan. They find him safe, already wearing his mask. They quickly tell him to grab essential supplies, including his insulin since he's diabetic. John runs to collect extra masks. With them on, they try to exit the bunker, but the main exit is packed with people desperately trying to escape. Thinking fast, John leads his family toward another exit. That path has partially collapsed, but they crawl beneath broken concrete and barely make it through. John opens the door, but the structure begins to shake again. They sprint outside just seconds before the entrance collapses behind them. Outside, chaos fills the air. People are rushing toward the shoreline. For a moment, they lose sight of Nathan until they spot him helping Dr. Amina. Reunited, they move together toward the sea, but when they arrive, they realize the worst part has only begun. The shoreline is already crowded with people desperately trying to reach the lifeboats. They spot people trying to steal Adam's mask. Without hesitation, they rush in to help him. But in the confusion, something goes terribly wrong. Someone snatches John's mask. There's no time to look back. They fight their way through the crowd and spot an open lifeboat nearby. Acting fast, they climb inside. The door is sealed shut, even as desperate people outside pound on it, begging to be let in. The pilot pushes the boat away from the shore. Suddenly, a massive wave appears on the horizon. Everyone braces. The tsunami crashes into the shoreline, sweeping away everything in its path. The people left behind are swallowed by the water, but somehow the lifeboat survived, riding over the wave instead of being pulled under. Now comes the hardest decision. They only have supplies for 1 week. After a tense discussion, they decide to head toward England. John checks the radiation levels and realizes something surprising. The radiation is low enough. They can finally remove their masks. Days pass at sea. The boat begins to malfunction, but John, using his engineering skills, manages to keep it running. Each fix buys them a little more time. At night, Nathan lies back, staring at the sky. The comet's debris still glows faintly above Earth, trapped in orbit. He points out constellations he learned about in school, sharing them proudly with his father. Then suddenly, a meteor streaks across the sky. They watch in silence, wondering where it will land. The next morning, the boat stops again. This time, it's serious. The pilot announces they're out of fuel. Now, they're completely at the mercy of the ocean current. Days drift by. Tension grows. Food runs low. Everyone becomes restless. Then the boat hits something. They climb out and stare in disbelief. Beneath the water lies a massive structure. John recognizes it immediately. This is Liverpool. Half the city is underwater. They row closer to land and step onto solid ground, knowing they must find shelter fast. In the distance, they see other survivors and decide to follow them. Soon, they reach a fortified rescue bunker. People are desperately trying to get inside, but armed soldiers guard the entrance. John and the others approach the gate and explain they came from a bunker in Greenland, asking for refuge. The soldiers demand identification. Only Allison still has hers. The others lost theirs during the escape. The soldiers refuse to open the gate. Panic spreads. The crowd pushes forward. Suddenly, shots are fired. Adam is hit as the soldiers force the gate shut, firing again to seal it completely. In the chaos, the group is torn apart. Sirens echo. A radioactive storm is moving in fast. John tells Dr. Amina they have no choice. They need to leave immediately. Adam is already gone. The remaining 4 flag down a car. The driver agrees to help, but only for a price. John silently removes his watch and hands it over. The car speeds away just as the storm closes in behind them. As they drive, Dr. Amina asks quietly, "Is the world like this everywhere now?" The driver doesn't look back. He simply replies, "This world is dangerous now. In this world, people won't hesitate to hurt others just to survive." He explains that these storms appear without warning, wiping out everything in their path. They decide to head toward London, where Allison's friend Mackenzie lives. Allison spoke to her 8 or 10 months ago, and from what she described, Mackenzie seemed prepared, with supplies, shelter, and a system to survive. Along the way, Nathan asks Dr. Amina if she truly believes the crater exists. She says she does. She explains that it's similar to the event that wiped out the dinosaurs. An asteroid caused total destruction, but from that destruction, new life eventually emerged. Without it, humans wouldn't exist today. The driver slows down. They're only 30 minutes from London now. John starts talking with the driver. He says the crater sounds hopeful, but to him, it feels more like a fairy tale than reality. Nathan walks closer to his father. Suddenly, the ground begins to shake. John John shouts for everyone to grab onto something. He pulls Nathan close and holds onto a nearby tree. Above them, countless meteors streak through the sky. They cling tightly as debris crashes around them until everything slowly begins to calm down. John notices the driver running back toward the car. He yells at him to stop. A meteor is still falling, but the driver refuses to listen. In the next instant, falling debris strikes him. When the meteor shower finally ends, the group steps out carefully. They collect what supplies they can from the damaged car and begin walking toward London on foot. Eventually, they reach Mackenzie's house. She opens the door holding a gun, fully alert. But the moment she recognizes Allison, her expression changes. She lowers the weapon and rushes to welcome them inside. The house is filled with Alzheimer's patients. Mackenzie explains that they don't understand what's happening outside. She keeps them calm, distracted, and comfortable. That's her life now. That night, they sit together and talk. John asks Mackenzie about the crater. She says she's only heard rumors, nothing confirmed. In the distance, they hear gunfire. Mackenzie tells them not to worry. London is relatively safe. She's reinforced the house and secured the area as best she can. Later that night, Allison wakes up to the sound of John coughing badly. She rushes to him and freezes. There's blood. John admits the truth. Years of working outside in radioactive air have damaged his body. The doctors already told him he has about 6 weeks left. He didn't want anyone to worry. Allison insists they're near hospitals and he can still be treated, but John refuses. He doesn't want to spend his final days in a hospital. He wants to go to the crater. He wants to help them find a truly safe place and give their son a better future. The next morning, they prepare to leave. Mackenzie gives them a car, extra supplies, and a weapon for protection. She urges them to leave quickly. To reach the crater, they'll first need a boat to cross the English Channel. The drive is long. To distract Nathan, they play small games along the way. Suddenly, Amina is hit. Someone is firing at the car, trying to steal it. They stop abruptly. John grabs the weapon and fires back defensively. One attacker tries to come from behind, but John manages to take him down and protect the group. The last bullet clicks empty. John is out of ammo, and a man is closing in. Before he can reach them, Allison reacts fast. She grabs the fallen man's weapon and fires. The threat is over. They rush to Nathan. He's safe, but then they realize the truth. Amina is gone. They dig a grave by hand and lay her to rest. John says a few quiet words, giving her the respect she deserves. After driving for several more hours, they reach the English Channel and stop in disbelief. The sea is gone. Where water once separated Great Britain and France, there is now solid land. On the bright side, they don't need a boat anymore. They keep driving straight toward France. Hours later, traffic comes to a complete halt. Ahead of them is a massive canyon tearing through the land. They step out of the car and move forward. Survivors have built a makeshift bridge to cross. At the edge, Nathan freezes. He's scared. John kneels beside him and tells him to be brave. They step onto the bridge together. The wind howls. The bridge sways. A sudden gust hits, but they manage to hold on. They reach a central platform, but the crossing isn't over yet. Several more bridges remain. Then the ground begins to shake. They have to move fast. They crawl onto a ladder-style bridge. Halfway across, another quake hits. The ropes snap. People fall into the canyon below. The ladder shakes violently. A man panics and tries to run back, but the way is blocked. With the structure collapsing, he jumps toward their bridge, slamming into Nathan. Nathan barely holds on. John grabs him and pulls his son back up as the platform gives way beneath them. They scramble forward and reach the other side just in time. Behind them, the entire bridge system collapses into the canyon. They continue walking, unsure if they've even reached France. Everything looks destroyed. Suddenly, a man steps out and aims a weapon at them. John calmly introduces himself. They mean no harm. They're only trying to reach the crater. The man lowers his weapon and shakes their hand. He asks them to follow him. He leads them to an abandoned mill in a place called Kalala. He's turned it into a home, powered by solar energy. The air is filtered as much as possible. He introduces them to his wife and daughter, Camilla. His wife is paralyzed and unable to speak, the result of long-term radioactive exposure. They share a simple meal. The man asks why they want to go to the crater. John says they've heard it's the promised land, humanity's last hope. The man warns them. The crater is extremely dangerous. The Western Alliance, along with what remains of the French army, controls the area. The Eastern Alliance wants the crater's resources. It's a brutal war zone, nearly impossible to cross. That night, Camilla shows Nathan her room. Nathan shows her his blanket, covered in drawings of stars. Later, Allison asks John what his father told him privately before they left for the bunker. John reveals the promise he made to protect Allison and Nathan no matter what. The next morning, the Frenchman gives them a map. He explains a route to avoid the worst of the fighting. It won't be easy. When they reach the Western Alliance base, John must ask for Commander Jennett. They were friends. He must show him the photo. Jennett will help them reach the crater. Then the man makes one last request. They must take his daughter with them. She deserves a better life than this. Allison overhears and agrees immediately. They will protect Camilla and take her to the crater safely. Camilla says goodbye to her parents with tears in her eyes. They begin their journey once again. Later, as they rest and play small family games to pass the time, soldiers spot them in the distance. The soldiers belong to the Western Alliance. Speaking in French, they warn the group that this zone is restricted to civilians. Everyone looks confused until Camilla steps forward. In French, she calmly explains that they're looking for Commander Janet, a close friend of her father, and that he promised to help them reach the crater. The soldiers shake their heads. Passing through is impossible. John steps forward and asks for help anyway. That night, one soldier quietly guides them through the war zone. The Western Alliance and the Eastern Alliance are locked in brutal conflict over the crater. The soldier warns them to stay low. They move through the darkness, past ruined bunkers and silent bodies, until they finally reach a massive underground structure built by the Western Alliance. From there, soldiers load them into a truck and drop them at a base camp, the place where Commander Janet was stationed. Camilla looks toward the horizon and notices something strange. The mountains are new. That means the crater is just beyond them. Nearby, dozens of civilians wait, all hoping for a chance to reach it. John approaches the officer in charge and shows him a photo, asking about Commander Janet. The officer doesn't say a word. He simply points. John sees the body. Commander Janet is gone. John asks for directions to the crater. The answer is no. They're ordered to leave. Desperate, John pleads with them. He explains that he's dying and that all he wants is to bring his family somewhere safe before his time runs out. The officer pauses. Then he quietly tells a soldier to make room for them on the transport bus. They board the bus. At last, they're heading toward the crater. But the journey isn't over yet. Midway through the trip, bandits ambush the bus. They overpower the guards. When the driver tries to escape, he's shot. The bandits take control. They force everyone off the bus. John tells his family and the others to move ahead. Once everyone is clear, John turns back. He confronts the bandit. A struggle breaks out. His mate steps in, only to be knocked down by the crowd. 2 gunshots echo from inside the bus. Moments later, John steps out. He's alive, but badly injured. They rush to help him. With no other choice, everyone gets back on board. Allison takes the driver's seat and keeps going. Eventually, the road ends. They'll have to climb the rest of the way on foot. With the help of the group, John pushes himself up the mountain. At the summit, they finally see it. The Clark crater, exactly as rumored. Fertile land, fresh water, clear skies, untouched by radiation. A place where life can begin again. John looks around, overwhelmed. He tells everyone to stop and rest. He smiles, truly at peace. He collapses to the ground. John says he's happy that he made it far enough to see his family safe. And then he's gone. Nathan steps forward. He repeats the same words his father once said, a final farewell. And in that moment, Nathan takes on the responsibility of the future, a new world, one built not on fear or power, but on kindness